stink in here.
I know, it's the compost. I know, it's really gross, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's our compost station over there. It's fine, Sandra, it's okay, she can be in the potatoes. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Let me just tell you all, I am not in the best mood today. So what better time than to film a postpartum update? I have filmed so many times a postpartum update. I am almost 8 weeks postpartum. And some of these videos I've actually completely filmed start to finish and never got around to editing and uploading them, and now they just feel irrelevant. So we'll try it again today and we'll see what happens. But it does not get any more raw and real than what I'm about to throw at you guys right now, because like I said, I'm just not in a really good headspace right now. I'm very tired. God, I need to recap the past 8 weeks. So just really quickly, first 5 to 6 weeks, this guy was a breeze. Okay. In a sense that he was a very chilled baby. Also in a sense that he slept remarkably well. Unfortunately, he slept too well. He was mildly jaundiced. He got diagnosed with something called breast milk jaundice. And it was just a slow burn. It never needed any treatment other than that I just needed to stay on top of feeding him. But it took forever to clear. And while we waited, he was just so fatigued. And it made feeding him impossible. I can't even tell you guys how many hours at night I spent just trying to wake my baby. It should be the other way around. You spend hours trying to put your baby to sleep. I was spending hours trying to wake him, to nurse him, to feed him, whatever, because we were trying to establish breastfeeding. And what ended up happening was I was not responding to my breast pump. So I needed him to nurse in order for me, number one, to remove the milk. And number two was my Haka was the only pump that worked. What is it, buddy? What is it, bud? But I needed him to nurse. And so it took me 3 weeks to realize that my nipple size between last breastfeeding journey and this one changed by 5 centimeters. I was a 21 millimeter, sorry, not centimeters, millimeters. I was a 21 millimeter flange last time when I exclusively pumped for 14 months, okay? I was a 21 millimeter flange size. And now I'm a 15. It took me forever to figure it out. And the thing that stinks is that in anticipation that I might end up having to pump a lot with this boy, I stocked up on 21 millimeter flanges thinking, hey, I'm a 21 millimeter flange size. I even measured myself during pregnancy. And my nipple measured 19 millimeters. I don't know. Anyway, so I followed whatever the pattern was. Yes, baby? And it was whatever your size was, you go a couple centimeters bigger. Anyway. Silly Sander. So anyway, 15 millimeter flange, I finally figured it out. But like I said, it took me, 3 weeks to do it, three weeks to figure it out. And in that time, it just was so difficult because he was slightly jaundiced. He wouldn't wake up. I needed something to suck milk out of me to help me establish my milk supply. So we were off to just a really rough and disadvantaged start from the get-go. Yes, you can go near. Come on.
1, 2,
Go on.
Mama, how does it take me?
Yes, here.
Take Mama.
There you go.
And I don't say get stuck.
Here, how about it's going to blow away. So if you want it here, you stick it like this. So, anyway, so what ended up happening, and now I guess we're jumping to the breastfeeding thing, is that because of his jaundice, he was so lethargic. I couldn't get him to feed sufficiently enough. I finally figured out my pump situation, but his weight gain, he was gaining weight, but it wasn't fast enough. And so his pediatrician said, let's start off with just giving him, 60 milliliters, which is 2 ounces of pumped milk twice a day, to try to flush the rest of the bilirubin out, wake him up a little, and then he should be able to feed. So there I am pulling out my pump, and I refused to bottle feed. I was going to get, you guys, I threw everything I possibly had at this final breastfeeding journey. I threw everything at it. I left no stone unturned. I did everything I absolutely possibly could think of to make it a successful journey, to salvage my nursing desires, dreams, hopes, maybe to have that just one time in my life. And so I got a SNS system, the supplemental nursing system. It's like that tube. It's the Medela ones. You tape like a tube to your nipple, and it's attached to this thing, and you can put formula in it. I was putting pump milk in it, and I would then have him nurse, so that when he was nursing, he was just getting extra, a heavier flow of milk, so that he'd get more milk in him at each feed and wasn't getting hooked on a bottle. Because that is what happened with my middle child, my last kid, is this whole scenario happened. The jaundice, the weight loss. So I started pumping, I started giving it in a bottle, and he just wanted the bottle from then on out. So that was the end of the nursing experience for us. But the problem with the SNS is, number one, is an actual to clean. And I only had one. I couldn't have multiple because they're, 350 crowns here. It's not something I'm just going to go spend $1 million getting 100 SNS systems. But also, it was a hassle to use, which is fine. I didn't mind it so much, but I ended up spilling a lot of milk, leaking a lot of milk. The gasket in it was finicky, and he would end up gagging on the tube sometimes. Even though I had it taped, it would come loose. And even with the tape was very uncomfortable to pull off of my nipple. Listen, it was an experience, and I'm glad I did it, but it didn't work out. And bottom line is, he would still fall asleep at the breast and would not end up getting all the milk that I needed him to get in him in that feed. So I was still having to empty it out into a bottle and bottle feed him and then pump. By the way, this insanity is still ongoing. I haven't quit breastfeeding yet. Anyway, but we've had our good days and our bad days. We have had days where my milk supply seemed like it was great. And I've had days where my milk supply was such that my child was screaming at the breast. And I have since learned his patterns and desires. So the Cliff Notes version is, I am maxed out at capacity where I was with my last baby. So I have a cap on how much milk I can produce. Well, you're welcome to share comments in the comment section down below if you would like to share thoughts for anyone else who happens upon this video and is looking for tips and tricks and whatever. I don't need them though, because believe me when I say I have done it all. I've done it all, you guys. I've done it all. And I am not capable of producing more than approximately 22 to 26 ounces of milk in a day, which is barely just enough. My last baby was taking 40 ounces of milk a day. He has always been a big feeder and eater. He is a solid, chunky guy. So I never was able to make enough. This guy eats the average amount. He averages about 28 ounces in a day. And so I'm doing similar to what I did with my last baby, which is that I give this guy 1 to 2 bottles of formula at night, and then the rest of the milk he takes, he either nurses, or I also pump at very routine intervals throughout the day, and I will give it to him by bottle. So I am triple feeding. And honestly, I hear birth stories and people talk about how difficult it is to triple feed. I don't even recognize it as difficult anymore, because I have had to triple feed with each of my kids, and I am such a martyr. I just make myself into a martyr. I really wish breastfeeding didn't mean as much as it does to me as it does. I wish I didn't care. I wish I was okay with just being a formula feeding mom. I honestly don't know why I'm not okay with it, because I ended up having to be a formula feeding mom with my first. And that went, it went totally fine. And there's a lot of conveniences with being a exclusive formula mom. But I hold so much trauma and anger and resentment about like not being able to do the thing that I can't bring myself to let go. I love the idea of breast milk, especially now that I have 2 preschoolers in my house. I love the idea that my antibodies are getting into my baby. I love the idea that breast milk is best suited for a young infant's digestive system, because all of my kids have had digestive issues, and it's always been because of formula. And my husband and I have wrecked digestive systems. Okay, so this is like a genetic thing, right? So I, of course, want to provide the best thing for my baby and their bodies biologically. But if I'm to be truly, truly honest, I think the reason that I continue to slave away at the triple feeds is just because I'm so bitter that I can't be like everybody else in this one respect. That I, can't feed my baby the way I want. That I can put so much effort and energy into trying to build up a milk supply, and it does jack shit for me. And my husband always has to remind me that I'm being really, not selfish, what's the word, about this breastfeeding thing. Because a lot of people say the same thing about their fertility. That they can do all the things and it's just not fair. Their bodies, for whatever reason, just aren't doing the thing. A lot of people say the same thing about miscarriage. That they can get pregnant, but their bodies just can't hold on to the pregnancy. A lot of people say the same thing about birth, that for whatever reason, like their bodies can't go into labor naturally, or they're prone to complications and stuff. I am an asshole for being as pissy as I am about breastfeeding, when literally every single step of creating this life has gone so exceptionally well and easy for us. And here I am about breastfeeding. So I recognize that I am being completely unreasonable, and God forbid I have to supplement my babies a couple bottles a day. So I really have no right to be acting about this topic the way I am. I gotta get into the shade. It's really hot right now. But anyway, it would just, like, I'm creating this problem for myself. I am, making it really difficult for myself willingly, because I could very easily just buy formula and be done with the whole thing. But that's not what I have chosen to do yet. Sorry guys, I'm just gonna set you up. Here. So, we have settled into a routine, like I said, where I will nurse him to sleep, and I will nurse him when he wakes up in the morning, or I should say he will nurse at those times. And then if I'm really full, like if it's been at least 3.5 hours since my last pump, and the milk is just like literally leaking out of my tatas, he will latch on and he'll take the first letdown. He will not work past the first letdown, especially if he's awake and he's hungry. If he's just trying to fall asleep, he may continue to just suckle, and then another letdown might come if I'm full. But basically, he's developed a bottle preference such that when the milk stops flowing fast, he wigs out. And so then I always have a bottle ready for him, and I just give him a bottle of expressed milk, and while he takes that, I pump. So it is an enormous to do this thing, and I have come to a place where twice now, 2 or 3 times, I've said, that's it, I'm done. I cannot pump again. I cannot do this. I hate pumping. I'm so bitter. I cannot do this. And I've had a big long cry and decided, okay, I'm gonna wean. And then 2 hours pass and I'm like, all right, I gotta pump. I don't know what I'm going to do, you guys, because I really am at the end of the day quite miserable. But like I said, I can't let it go. And I see him growing. And I also see how much he struggles with passing formula poops, because I give his formula bottles, you know, back to back at night. He gets one at like 1 and one at 4 in the morning. So he passes those poops together. You know, you can tell the difference between a formula poop and a breast milk poop. When it's breast milk poop, he has no problem with it at all. But the formula poops, it just murders his belly. And I'm using the HIP Organics Sensitive Stomach formula this time. I don't know if that's the issue with my last kid. We had to use Altira, which is a hypoallergenic formula because my son had a cow's milk protein sensitivity. And with my daughter, we used Baby Semp, just regular Baby Semp stuff, you know. So, I mean, I don't even have a consistent track record. It just seems like any kind of formula really messes with my kids' bellies. I see my son grow, and it brings me a lot of happiness to know that I'm providing for him, and especially at these tender weeks of his life, when I've got kids bringing home the stomach flu and every single cold and flu you could imagine from preschool. He hasn't gotten those sicknesses, and I feel like I'm protecting him. I feel like it is my responsibility as a parent to sacrifice and do what's best for him. And right now that feels like providing him breast milk. So we have this trip to the US planned for October, and holy crap, you guys, I do not want to be pumping like this every 2 to 3 hours around the clock when we go to the US. Like, the flight is going to be a disaster, and being there and trying to be like on vacation and having to pump every 2 hours, I can't. So my goal is to continue with the schedule until he's 12 weeks old and then reassess, because it would be great if I could just stop pumping and just let him nurse when he wants and then provide formula for the rest of it. But I don't know how to do that, because I've actually tried, like I've actively come to a place in my mind where I'm like, I'm done pumping. I'm never going to do this again. And then 2 or 3 hours pass and then I pump, you know, I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm quasi miserable, but it's also of my own doing. And I both don't know how to wean, but I also do know how to wean, and I'm willingly not willing to do it. This is very complicated, as you can see, and like I said, this is my actual real life right now. And I'm not looking for sympathy or advice or anything, because I know that I'm dealing with thoughts and feelings that I need to work through before I finally do commit to a decision. I need to get there emotionally and psychologically first before I can physically go there. But like, my day-to-day, more or less, is bearable and manageable, especially because we live the way we do. We don't really go anywhere anyway, so it works for the most part. But like with my last pumping journey, breastfeeding journey, same with this one, I'm retaining all the weight. I have tracked macros on and off. I am walking about, I don't know, I'm hitting my step count every day. I'm getting anywhere from like 9 to 14,000 steps in a day. I have not started to lift actively. I did do a lot of core and pelvic floor rehab, and come to think of it, I have a physio appointment tomorrow to check if I have a diastasis, because I have like this really weird pain in the center of my core, right above my belly button. I feel like I'm injured there. So I'm just going to have them check and see if anything is wrong there. But I have not been able to get into any kind of lifting routine, because my morning routine with this guy is atrocious right now. He used to be very, very easy, but now it's like he will only nap if he's in the ergo, and my body is so sore from hauling him around everywhere and doing life that it's extremely difficult. And so, but like, you know, we go up at 8:30 in the morning, and then like I have to, once he's done nursing as much as he will, he then starts panic shrieking to eat. This kid power eats in the morning. I'm telling you, ounces upon ounces upon ounces. So then I feed him all of the milk that I pumped overnight. So that's probably like 7 or 8 ounces that I pumped overnight on top of what he already nursed that morning. And while he's eating those bottles, I am pumping again. And then I have to like get up. I get myself changed. I get him changed. I change his diaper. I clean up our room. Like I collect all the bottles, all the pumping stuff, everything from the night before. I bring it into the kitchen. And by that time, it's about 10:30 in the morning. And then I take my thyroid medicine. And then he is screaming again to be fed again by that point. And so I feed him again. And then I'm like panic washing dishes because I've run out of bottles. I've run out of pump parts. I need to get all that stuff because it is now time to pump again. And I've yet to eat breakfast. This is literally how every single morning has gone for the past 8 weeks. And then, so then I'm eating breakfast at around noon. And now he's super overtired and needs to be put down for a nap. And by that point, I will have already tried to lay him down, nurse him to sleep. I've tried walking him. We take long walks in the stroller. He'll fall asleep for about 20 minutes and then he'll wake up again and want to be fed again, which I don't even think he actually wants to eat. I think it's just comfort, but whatever. So then I finally cave in, and it will be like around 1:30 or 2. I will be completely exasperated. He will be completely exasperated. I will have had to have pumped again. So I resigned to putting him in the carrier, and it is 5 p.m. now. And he's been asleep for 4.5 hours in the carrier. He falls asleep instantly, stays asleep. A bomb could go off, and this kid will not wake up. Okay. In the carrier. Anywhere else doesn't last. But it's so ironic because at night we've got the best night routine. You know, he power eats. I feed him, and then at 8 p.m. go into the room. I nurse him off, lay him down in his crib, and he sleeps peacefully in his crib until 8:30 the next morning. I dream feed him and change him at 1, and I dream feed him and change him at 4. And like I said, he starts, fussing around at 6:30. So I bring him into the bed and we just snooze together in the bed and he nurses on and off. So I can't complain when it comes to sleep at night, but during the day, it is a disaster. And I end up like this. So my hips, my feet, my knees, everything is sore. My brain is sore, So we had a particularly tough day today where he was having some pretty bad belly pains and gas pains. And I had to use one of those windy pipes to help him clear the trapped gas. And so that's why, I'm starting this video and I'm just like, oh my God, today's not the day I should be filming an update because I'm like particularly negative. Anyway, but really with all that said, things are going really well. Mental health wise, aside from just the general stress and struggles of being a mom of 3 very small kids, I feel great. And that is attributed, now that I know as time has gone by, to the fact that it is summer and we have so much daylight. That has played such a huge part in my mental health this postpartum. With my first kid, it was the very beginning of fall. And that just was like a very long winter with my first baby, and she's a terrible sleeper and it was just hard. My second kid was a terrible sleeper and he was born the 1st of January. So now we're talking about the dead of winter solstice. It's like the darkest ever part of the year. So that was really rough. Second thing that has extremely helped me this time is the fact that my husband is not working. He's a full-time student right now and he studies from home. So he is here pretty much 24/7 to help me with the older kids. I did not have that with my first kid when I was going through like raging postpartum depression and I was all alone in a foreign country in like the middle of winter, and I didn't have that the second time when I then had a newborn and a toddler. So hats off to all the moms who are doing it alone, because I did it with the newborn and toddler I started on antidepressant medications very early in that postpartum journey, but I have yet to need them this time around. I do know that I'm having brain chemistry imbalances, but they are being kept in check by the fact that I'm getting adequate sleep at night and I have adequate help during the day. And like, I have good vitamin D resources. I'm able to go outside easily with this guy. I can be outside right now filming this. So I know I said I was going to film like this whole video about what I thought was going so remarkably well with postpartum, and like I was going to list off supplements and stuff, but really it's not the supplements. I recognize now it's the fact that I have a good sleeper. Even in the daytime, if I'm willing to put him in the baby carrier, he gives me as much time as I want or need. And I have, good help and stuff. So, I don't know what else to say. I'm sure there's a ton of things to be said, but I don't want to make this video too long. I just finished editing the video and I just realized I didn't bother stating the obvious, which is that, first of all, look at shocker, pumping, and the baby is in the ergo because I'm a chump and don't know how to get my kid to sleep anywhere else besides the baby carrier. Anyway, I did not state the obvious that I am absolutely like inexpressibly in love with my baby. I was just having a bad day yesterday and was very negative. I wrote this on my Instagram channel. It took me about 12 days to get to a point where I couldn't even remember or imagine life without this little guy. I am so in love with him. And I catch myself saying I love him more than the whole world. He is just like he consumes my whole heart. And I feel so guilty feeling that way and thinking those things because I stop myself and I'm like, hold on. I feel that way also about my other kids too. It's such a weird thing, the love you have for your children, because you feel like each one of your children completely occupies and owns your entire heart. So it's really weird. I always feel so guilty when I say I love him more than anything, because then I'm like, oh my God, I love my daughter and my son more than anything too. How is this possible? How can I love this newcomer so much? But then also equally love my other kids that I've had for 6 and almost 4 years. Anyway, I just felt the need to make a little shout out for that, because that is also a big part of what is going on over here in this postpartum life, is just soaking up all of this little baby love. So anyway, I'm going to check out. Hopefully I will be back to do regular updates after this. It just took me forever to finally just get a video out. So here it is. Catch you guys soon. Okay. Bye.